Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you.
These pictures of Nikolai Stremsky as an army recruit were taken in the 1980s. Nikolai never thought that he would become a clergyman with 70 children, and yet when he returned home after 2 years of military service, Nikolai had no doubt that he would join the priesthood. So what happened to him on the border with Afghanistan? After graduating from seminary, Nikolai was appointed to a post in Orenburg. The city rests on the continents of Europe and Asia. Its river forms the border. There are plains as far as the eye can see. The region is subject to blazing heat in summer and severe cold in winter. The famous Orenburg shawl is worn here to starve off freezing temperatures. The young clergyman and his wife came to the village of Saraktash, 100 kilometers from Orenburg. There's nothing remarkable in the village other than rows of buildings. This prompted Father Nikolay to plan the construction of 3 churches, an Orthodox school, and a charity house.
Peasant homes occupied every single square meter of 2 hectares. Money was needed to buy the houses out and then tear them down. When construction work began, Father Nikolay didn't have enough money to complete it. That's the way it was.
But miraculously, the project was completed. The main church resembles the one in Orenburg that was torn down in Soviet times. The design of the Orthodox school was copied from a 19th century diary. As for the administrative building, it was inspired by a picture in a book of fairy tales by Alexander Pushkin. The clergyman's vast house sits across the road. It is big enough to accommodate Father Nikolay's incredibly large family of 70 children.
As a young boy, I dreamed of a family with many children, a modest wife, and enough money to buy her a nice dress. Then I married and bought a dress. We had no kids of our own, so we went to an orphanage to adopt some young children. We just took away the ones that we were offered, and we had no idea how children should be cared for. So on that occasion, we adopted 5 kids. And as time went by, we realized that we could care for them. Let's take in a couple more, I said to my wife. But then we ended up adopting 7 kids.
Daddy. Daddy.
I was one of the several kids that they had taken in. I asked him, "What shall I call you?" He said, "Call us father and mother if you like." "Yes, very much," I responded, and after that I found it easy to call them mother and father.
I remember the day when Father came to the orphanage. He and his wife were sitting on a chair in the corridor when I came up. I thought the one wearing the black robe was a woman. I mistook it for a dress. I called him Mommy, and he gave me a sweet. Then I turned to Mother and got another sweet. I wasn't exactly sure who was Mom and who was Dad.
3 years later, Father Nikolay's family had grown to 47 children.
On another occasion, a woman from another town chanced upon a 7-year-old boy rummaging through garbage cans. He was bald, skinny, and dirty. She brought him to me and asked me whether I could give him shelter. I asked if he had some documents and where he was from. He had no documents. He was from Khanty-Mansis. This woman has heard about our place and was just planning to come to Orenburg to visit her friends, so she decided to take this boy with her. I said okay, as he's just one person. That's how our family grew. The situation with neglected children was quite desperate at the time. I believe 1/3 of the kids are those brought to me by other people.
I thought he was the Lord himself. I was a little child then. My granny had told me many stories about God. There was an icon in our house, so when I first saw my father, he was like God.
At that time, Anya was as young as her daughter is now. Father Nikolay had already achieved priesthood, even though he was just a young man under 30. When he first took his new family to church, the children pickpocketed parishioners.
At first I had a rose-tinted picture of the children. I saw them as angels. My wife and I went through a very difficult period filled with uncertainty. Should we take them back? It was tough. Once I gave them a rabbit, a gift from my heart. But the following morning, the rabbit was nowhere to be seen. Where did it go? Did it run away? It didn't take long to find it. It was lying dead just outside the garden gate. Somebody had stabbed it. As it turned out, the father of the boy who'd killed the rabbit used to kill dogs.
Many of Father Nikolay's children did not have ideal childhoods. Some were removed from poor houses where they had to steal to survive. Others had never seen a toothbrush or eaten an apple. Mothers would drink even though they were pregnant. Some of the children still have scars from beatings. One daughter's head was slammed against the wall by her alcoholic biological father. So their new father needed to work a miracle for them to overcome their past.
But it's hard to escape the past. Like yesterday, for example, we have a girl here. I took her from a maternity home when she was just a baby. So yesterday she stole a purse from her tutor. Another girl saw the act and demanded to know what she was holding in her hands. So the little one said, "Want me to share some with you?"
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 second, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, then I let it go again. Why did I let it go? Because it made my finger so. Which finger did it? By the little finger on the right.
Good job!
Father Nikolay hired a staff of nannies to help raise and teach the children. Over time, he learned how to both encourage and discipline.
I always try to avoid spanking them, but sometimes I simply have to, even though it is the wrong thing to do. Those were nervous breakdowns. Usually when they misbehave, I just don't allow them to play or join the others on one of our many trips. In this case, they just stayed home with the nanny.
In summer, he takes all the children to the seaside. They go sailing, and sometimes he takes them to Moscow.
This one shows Father and me visiting Jerusalem. I was 8 years old. Here I'm 3 years old. Kolya is 4. This is us in America.
I remember the incredible jealousy I felt with the arrival of newcomers. Here comes a girl nobody knows. Is she going to call them father and mother like we do? Father says, "This girl's name is Elena. She will stay with us." I fly into a rage. How come she's going to live with us and call them mother and father?
Father Nikolay knows perfectly well how to settle conflicts among the children.
I talk to each of them separately and I tell them I understand where they're coming from. I tell them I'm on their side. And then the next child comes and I tell them the same. And this way, conflicts will settle themselves.
The family focuses on raising the children that they have, but some come on their own accord. Maria, a distant relative of Father Nikolay, asked to join his family.
I came here when I was 16 years old. The other girls were about the same age. If we had been raised in the same family, there would be no conflicts. We simply didn't know each other. I wasn't here for 16 years. They have been living together for a long time. They belong to different nationalities and have managed to build a community. And then I came suddenly.
You know how the saying goes, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. But she was out to impose her own rules on us. She wanted to be the leader, but that would not work with us.
We aren't allowed to play football with the boys, but she did. I told her playing football with the boys was against the rules. She said, "Are you trying to teach me?" She came back and began swinging her arms in front of me. We had a fight. She bruised me.
It was about kinship and who loves whom. You see, Marie is a relative of mine, but the other girls say, "We've been with our father since childhood. He loves us more than he does you." That's what caused the quarrel. I had to succumb to the majority. I told Maria, "You did the wrong thing by trying to set yourself against all the others."
Now Maria lives in the charity house across the road from Father Nikolay's family.
There's a pacemaker inside my chest. I live off a bed tree. I know several old women complaining about their children living off their pensions and their grandmothers are starving.
The rules are stricter here. The girls can't wear trousers, they have to wear scarves. In Father Nikolay's house, kids live the way they like. Here we live as if we were in a monastery. Sometimes life gets very boring. There is more communication with the outside.
The family gathers together during rehearsals. They are always preparing for a performance.
You won't celebrate neither Christmas nor the New Year. Father Frost won't find you.
Boys and girls live and study separately. They meet in church, at rehearsal, or on the farm.
Let it be that black and white cow.
This one, your favorites.
Then you wash her. She's kicking.
It stood still last time while you were washing it. Vova, he likes Katya.
Tell us about your fiancé.
He came here on a tour. He liked me. We exchanged numbers and became friends. I told Dad, I don't know what's going to happen next.
For the priest, the most important thing is that his daughter's fiancé is a good man. Christina's husband is a policeman. She was studying to become an accountant in Orenburg, which is where she met her spouse.
I told my father that I have met a guy, and he said he wanted to meet him too. Slavik arrived, they got acquainted. Father said that he is a good guy, and we can be friends and so on.
This is Nastya and Sergei. Basically, it was Lena who got married first. Here she is. Lena and Pasha. Katya was the next one.
The girls love looking at wedding pictures hanging in the house, as well as those of all 70 children who all call the Stremskys their father and mother. The parents managed to look after the first group of children themselves, but as the family grew, they had to hire people to help them. The mother could not cope with washing diapers for 36 babies and checking the homework of 20 school children. But, like all parents, the Stremskys try to spend all their free time together with their children.
Basically, I was my mother's favorite. She was holding me in her arms all the time. Can you see me in her arms in the pictures? And here I am in her arms too. She was holding me all the time.
Little by little, the day-to-day lives of the children have changed. Before, it was the mother who put everyone to bed. Now the older sisters are in charge of the task. It's also their responsibility to look after the little ones. It takes 4 chefs to cook for the family. A lot of food is needed, as the children can eat their way through 150 kilograms of potatoes in just 3 days. But the children always help in the kitchen. It's very important for them to know where food comes from. At an orphanage, children don't even know how to make fried eggs, since they only see cooked dishes.
Children, come and get your pies.
Father Nikolay sometimes drops by to see if everything is fine. Nowadays, he has very little time to do so.
Our first children got a lot of our attention. We spent all the time together with them. We took them to church and everywhere we went. They received lots of our attention. Biological parents sometimes give less care to their kids than we did. But with the kids that we have now, the situation is somewhat different. Perhaps because we've grown older.
At first glance, it may seem that life for the children here is no different than in a good orphanage.
What makes the difference is that they feel protected. They don't want to leave this place. They don't ask me to pass them to another family. This is the best sign that they feel protected.
It's very different from an orphanage. Even now, when I am married, my father calls me to ask how my kids and I are doing. My children treat him as their grandfather and love him very much. In addition, Dad bought us a house, which is not the case at orphanages. He helps us as any normal parent, but he's got too many children.
The priest knows that one day many of them will ask him for a blessing of guidance.
I just want to know why they abandoned me.
Sooner or later, almost every one of the children will wonder why they were abandoned and try to find out who their birth parents are.
She was at home when I arrived. I said her maiden name and she confirmed that it was her. I started making hints, asking if she remembered a certain person, a certain name and the date. She said yes. So I told her I was her son. But she said I wasn't. I said, "That's strange, it's me. Look at my birth date." But she kept on saying I was not her son. That's the kind of conversation we've had. Well, if she doesn't want me, of course I'm not going to thrust myself on her. I do have parents. Here they are, my dad and my mom. That's all I need.
My mother, she knows that I live here, and she knew that I had been taken to Saraktash. I don't care a thing about her. If she doesn't want me, if she abandoned me, why look for her? I have the parents who took care of me and my childhood, and they take care of me even now. But they still help me, even though I am an adult and I have my own family.
Nowadays, they all gather together for big holidays like Christmas. Not just the children, but the children's children too. Some of the older children work at the monastery. Others have left. Father Nikolay lets his flock choose their own path.
So, Angelina, what do you want to be when you grow up? Have you ever thought about it?
I don't know.
No?
No.
You haven't? But it's time already. It's time to make a choice. I know that Veronika has already made her choice. Be honest with me, have you made your choice?
I want to be a designer or icon painter.
What about you, Vika?
I don't know.
You don't know? Then you'll be an I don't know. What about you, Masha?
Police officer.
Police officer. Why are you crying, David?
The children know their father supports them and that miracles do happen. Ask, and it shall be given. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you.
For instance, an ordinary person would feel very doubtful about building a church. He would think he had no money or other resources, and that he wouldn't cope with the task. But as for him, he doesn't think of how he's going to do it. He simply does it. He's not afraid of anything.
Father Nikolay had a parish without a church, yet he managed to found an Orthodox town. He had no children, yet he became the father of a very large family.
I always want this house to be full of children. This is my dream. Maybe my son Nikolay will be able to do it. I must raise a successor who can continue what I've been doing, adopting children.
He told me that I'll be his successor. He's always saying that to the guests.
Nikolay is 11 now. His father often takes him along on trips, like to Moscow. Once, as they were traveling, he told his son what happened to him on the border with Afghanistan in the 1980s.
During a skirmish, he was hit by a bullet which broke his cross but saved him. Of course, Dad was upset because the cross was broken. So he put it on the table and went out somewhere. But later, when he came back in like half an hour, he saw that the cross was really as good as new.
Father Nikolay wants his children to start families of their own, rather than wars. The only explosion he wants them to hear is when the Christmas fireworks rumble in the sky.
To buy her a nice dress. Then I married and bought a dress. We had no kids of our own. So we went to an orphanage to adopt some young children. We just took away the ones that we were offered. And we had no idea how children should be cared for. So on that occasion, we adopted 5 kids. And as time went by, we realized that we could care for them. Let's take in a couple more, I said to my wife. But then we ended up adopting 7 kids.
Daddy.
And then tear them down. When construction work began, Father Nikolay didn't have enough money to complete it. That's the way it was.
But miraculously, the project was completed. The main church resembles the one in Orenburg that was torn down in Soviet times. The design of the Orthodox school was copied from a 19th century diary. As for the administrative building, it was inspired by a picture in a book of fairy tales by Alexander Pushkin. The clergyman's vast house sits across the road. It is big enough to accommodate Father Nikolay's incredibly large family of 70 children.
As a young boy, I dreamed of a family with many children, a modest wife, and enough money to ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you.
These pictures of Nikolay Stremsky as an army recruit were taken in the 1980s. Nikolay never thought that he would become a clergyman with 70 children, and yet when he returned home after 2 years of military service, Nikolay had no doubt that he would join the priesthood. So what happened to him on the border with Afghanistan? After graduating from seminary,
Daddy.
I was one of the several kids that they had taken in. I asked him, what shall I call you? He said, call us father and mother if you like. Yes, very much, I responded, and after that I found it easy to call them mother and father.
I remember the day when Father came to the orphanage. He and his wife were sitting on a chair in the corridor when I came up. I thought the one wearing the black robe was a woman. I mistook it for a dress. I called him Mummy, and he gave me a sweet. Then I turned to Mother and got another sweet. I wasn't exactly sure who was Mom and who was Dad.
3 years later, Father Nikolay's family had grown to 47 children.
On another occasion, a woman from another town chanced upon a 7-year-old boy.
Nikolay was appointed to a post in Orenburg. The city rests on the continents of Europe and Asia. Its river forms the border. There are plains as far as the eye can see. The region is subject to blazing heat in summer and severe cold in winter. The famous Orenburg shawl is worn here to starve off freezing temperatures. The young clergyman and his wife came to the village of Saraktash, 100 kilometers from Orenburg. There's nothing remarkable in the village other than rows of buildings. This prompted Father Nikolay to plan the construction of 3 churches, an Orthodox school, and a charity house.
Peasant homes occupied every single square meter of 2 hectares. Money was needed to buy the houses out,